Good morning. We appreciate the fact that you are here again today as this college enters into what is true to be the defining moment for us as we move into this 21st century. I am so grateful that all of you are here and that you will have the opportunity again to voice your opinion about the candidates that are being brought forward. To that end, I would like to bring this to your attention. This is the evaluation form. It is really very important that you fill this out so that the board can have full information prior to their deliberation. So to that end, I'm asking you to do this. And Donna, exactly who would you like for them to? Just make sure you hand them in to the appropriate people on the way out. So thank you very much. Welcome again to this Presidential Search Finalist Candidate Open Forum, and thank you so much for attending. Dr. Ender's presentation is scheduled to last approximately 20 minutes, to be followed by 20 minutes of question and answers from our students and from our audience, certainly the students and from the rest of you as well. The staff members will be on hand with index cards that allow the audience members to submit their question for Dr. Ender at the end of the presentation. The index cards will be collected, and I will facilitate the question and answer portion of the forum. Please know that we will do our very best to try to address all of those index cards. If they are not addressed at this time, we will be giving these to the board, and they will take them into consideration as they think about the questions that they will perhaps need to ask our presenter. Dr. Stephen Ender is the president of Westmoreland County Community College in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. Dr. Stephen Ender is currently serving as that after over 30 years of wonderful work in the field of higher education. He has held numerous teaching, counseling, and administrative positions, and he has published exclusively in refereed journals as well as in textbooks. At Richmond, Virginia, he was the native son. He holds a bachelor's degree there from business and management from Virginia Commonwealth University, master's and doctoral degrees in education from the University of Georgia, and he has completed his postdoctoral studies at the Snowmass Institute in Snowmass, Colorado, and at Harvard University. Without further ado, will you please help me in welcoming Dr. Stephen Ender.
Thank you, Ann. Well, I thought I had a tough board in Pennsylvania, and look at me. And that was breakfast, so we'll see. Good morning, I'm Steve Ender, and well, actually, I'm quite proud to be here and very flattered. Before I get started, I do want to introduce you to one person in the audience, my wife, Karen. Karen, if you'd stand, please, and be recognized. If we come here and you see Karen coming, hide your checkbook. Okay. Now, I've been asked to spend my 20 minutes this morning really focusing on an area that is not only critical to this county and state, but to the nation, and that's workforce and economic development. So I've prepared a presentation that hopefully I can get through in 20 minutes. College presidents have trouble making good morning in 20 minutes, so this will be interesting. But let's work right into the presentation, Kathy, if we can, and we'll see where we go. Just some perspective of what I'm trying to accomplish this morning. And as I've taught for many years, but I do want to provide some context before I get into answering the three questions that have been presented to me, and then we'll do some wrap-up with the question and answer session. And perhaps as we go to context, it's more important for me than you. We're back one. Thank you. I mean, you know all these things, but coming in from Western Pennsylvania, I have spent some time just learning more about you. So this will not be surprising information for you, but some of it may be. You may not have looked at it. Your unemployment is 10.9% statewide. Michigan, unfortunately, is a leader in that statistic across this country. Kent County, 9% of our citizens are now unemployed. Another population that I believe when we think about workforce and economic development that we have to pay some attention to. What about those folks out there that do not have any post-secondary education or degrees? What do we know about that population, and specifically this 25 to 34-year-old group, because that's the group that theoretically would be starting their careers and moving up through that career ladder, if you will. In the county, we have 84,830 people in that population, of which about 39% do hold a college degree. However, and I think these are numbers that we should consider as an opportunity for this institution as we think about workforce development. About 3,300 have less than a 9th grade education. 8,500, 9th to 12th grade, no diploma, no high school diploma. So you're looking at 12,000 people there that are not employable from many perspectives, quite frankly. Another 20,000 that have their high school grad or have their GED, but no post-secondary training at all. And another 20,000 that have some college and no degree. So we're looking at almost 50,000 people that from the perspective of education and training, we could potentially help to skill up as they enter into or move along in the workforce in our county. Opportunities. Now, I have taken some work from a researcher at the University of Michigan. I believe his first name is Fred Grimes, and this was part of a report that he delivered to the Michigan Association of Community Colleges last summer. And we should know this, but we are now in a knowledge-based economy. Educated workers are the workers that will fuel it, and the fulcrum of prosperity for the state of Michigan. And we're going to get a little bit, as we move into the presentation, this whole notion of the knowledge-based economy. But let me say, just starting, depending on who you read, of all the new jobs that are being created in this country, anywhere from 70 to 90% of those jobs will require some training beyond secondary. Doesn't mean it's an associate degree. Doesn't mean it's a baccalaureate, but skills and knowledge training beyond the high school diploma. Grand Rapids, in many ways, perhaps we can win this unemployment war and the economy that we're looking at. We have some assets going for us. 4 counties are the fastest growing counties in Michigan. We are one of them in Grand Rapids. These 4 counties have a concentration of growth industries, and they also have tourism going for them. So, assets that we have, 3 that really help to drive a knowledge economy, and then industries within that economy. Premier system of higher education. We have it in Grand Rapids. I mean, this is a rich community from the perspective of training and education. Great Lakes, just over in that direction, or that direction, or that direction, or that direction. It's not very far away. And I understand it draws a lot of people. And then finally, a national premier health care system. And of course, I'm learning, but you know, that this whole notion of the medical miracle mile and the assets that are coming into the community for health care provides great opportunities for the region, for the county, and for our institution. So the first question that I was asked to address, what would be my vision of initiatives that Grand Rapids Community College, our workforce and economic development program, what should they be conducting? And first, just the vision piece. In my mind, as we think about workforce, this college should be recognized as the provider of choice, whether it be non-credit or credit. And I say that for a host of different reasons. You know, on the technical side, I think we should be able to do that as good or better than anybody. On the liberal studies side, when we're moving people on to the baccalaureate degree, we should do that as good as any four-year institution, and quite frankly, we do it at a cost point that allows families to really save a lot of money during their son or daughter's first 2 years of school. So when people think about training or education, whether private industry or parents sending folks to school or people coming back to school for retraining or to move into higher education, they should think Grand Rapids Community College. I mean, that's where I'm going first. So that's my vision as I come to this institution this morning. I have 6 initiatives that I think that we should be doing now. Every state has, through the Department of Labor, what they call high priority occupations. And those are those occupations that the state, through their research, are saying, here are where the jobs are in our state. And then that's regionalized. So we probably have them for the Grand Rapids area. So my first thought is, in our schools, we should be sure that the programs that we're offering align to the training that's needed for folks to move into those various occupations. So alignment. And alignment is something you'll hear from me a lot, quite frankly, this morning, and if I were to come here and be fortunate enough to be your president. I think we should be providing leadership, and we talked a little bit about this at breakfast. I mean, the thing that is concerning to me is there's a lot of people that really are doing wonderful things when it comes to workforce development. Again, are they aligned? Are they talking to one another? So we don't have to have the prestige of starting anything. But I would want to think that we are involved in some pretty high-level leadership group in Grand Rapids that would include secondary, post-secondary, our workforce development folks in the county, our economic development folks, and state and local officials. And that group should be focusing on 3 or 4 things. They should know what is needed by the present workforce, and are those opportunities available. They should be, through their SWOT analysis, looking out in the future and saying, okay, what's coming online? What are those industries that we're trying to recruit to Grand Rapids? What kind of work do they do? Energy is an area that I think will probably see some expansion in this community. Well, are we ready for that? Do we know it's coming? Do we know who's coming? Are we at the airport with the mayor and others meeting those officials when they come in from companies and talk about the programs that we can set up for them? There should be out of this group some sort of a early rapid response so that when layoffs and plant closings occur, there's a team of people right there in that plant helping people move forward in their life. We should be part of any, we're at the 30,000 square foot level now, group of people that are keenly practicing and programming for these types of events. 3, pathways. Now, I'm big on pathways, and I do that because I think I was in a 4-year environment for 30 years. I didn't see many options for our students. About half of them came because they wanted to be there. The other half came because their parents gave them a great alternative to life, You think about that, really. I mean, I worked that environment. I worked it for a long time. Met hundreds, thousands of students. About half of them wanted to be there. About half of them said, geez, my dad's going to let me go over there and live in a residence house and maybe get an apartment second year. They got fraternities. They got football teams. Let's see, I can do that, or I can go get a job. Don't know what I want to do, but that's a good option, So, but here, we have an opportunity here to really take a person through a pathway that moves from non-credit secondary technical training to our certificate and associate degree programs. And so the question I have between our non-credit and our credit folks in our School of Workforce, are we sure that we're lined up? And quite frankly, is there some articulation that goes on between non-credit and credit? Because we can't, the one phenomenon that's also going on in this economy that we live in and in our professionalization of different disciplines is the credentialing phenomenon. Everybody's asking for that credential. So if I put someone through a 40 or 50 hour non-credit experience in one of our disciplines, I would like to think that some credit would articulate to our credit program in that discipline. that we don't go back and repeat that work. We should be doing what I would say is an aggressive and ongoing market and sales campaign to become the trainer of choice in this community. This would include customized training and contract training for business and industry. We do it as good or better. We're a nonprofit. We do it cheaper. We can do it for credit or non-credit. And if we do it right, if it's non-credit, some of that work may articulate to our credit programs so we can start people on that pathway of credentialing if that's what they want. I mean, we really should be out there in this area. 5, aggressive marketing and sales campaign to become human resource training division for small and medium-sized businesses. And we are really getting involved in this work at my present institution. You work with a company of 50 or less employees, and they do not have the assets or resources to have their own training arm. They want training desperately. They know their folks need it, but they don't know how to assess what those needs are. They don't know how to take that assessment to then the development of curriculum. So we are now working with, right now, 3 different large companies, 1 large, 2 small, where we have become their training arm, and we are going in and doing that work for them. There are real opportunities here, and I'm sure they are in Kent County. And then 6, I'll tell you one thing that we have done as a country that certainly has helped us. But as we're in the 21st century, I think it's really starting to hurt us. We have sold everyone in this room and everyone in this county and everyone in this state and everyone in this country that to be successful, you have to have a college degree as defined by the baccalaureate. Think about that. If you're going to be successful, you have to have the baccalaureate degree. Nothing could be further from the truth. Of all the work in this country, about 30% of it requires a baccalaureate degree or greater. Today, another 70% of those jobs remaining require some type of post-secondary training. Families believe unless Sue gets a college degree, she is not going to make it in this world. It's not true. But that's the premise that we're working from. So we've got to help families because this is where it starts. You know, this is where the child is beginning to figure out what I want to do. And if mom and dad are saying, well, you may not know what you want to do, but you've got to get a college degree, it's the wrong message. And we have to begin to change that message if we're going to have a competent workforce for the type of work that's being created in this country. And we should have some leadership in that activity, quite frankly. Question 2. What would I accomplish if I came here to assure myself that we're on track in this area? I'm a little aggressive here. I've got a lot of things that I thought about. I wouldn't do all of this, but we have a lot of competent people here that would help me do it. Again, this whole analysis of do we have the programs out there aligned to the work that needs to be done in the county. I think that people really start testing what does a leader stand for. You know, you might talk the talk, but do you walk the walk? Well, you have a workforce development board in this county. You've got a manufacturing county council. Probably have some folks that are employed in economic development for the county. We need to be at those tables. And quite frankly, the president should be at those tables. So I would probably work pretty hard to make sure that I have a seat on those various councils or boards. I'd want to come in and look at, alluding back to the last area, the first question, okay, how are we doing in this customized and contract training area? What do we know? Employees that we've trained, the areas we're training in, our profit and loss statements, and what do the trend lines look like in that area? A little bit of information that I was able to find on my own in our School of Workforce, and I'm not taking any shots here at anybody. A drop of 0.5% in our credit area in this particular school, it could be nothing more than an anomaly, but at the same time, any drop would be something I'd want to take a look at because I know that's the school that, as far as the work that may need to be done in this county, that's where we would be doing a lot of that work. So is this an anomaly or something going on we need to look at a little bit more? In our non-credit area, the training solutions grew 31.5% last fall to this fall. In our job training area, it fell 2.5%. And in the apprenticeship programs, it's off 13%. So I'd want to understand what's behind these numbers, quite frankly, when I come in here. I think it would be important for me to get to know the folks that are providing leadership in this school. So fairly quickly, I would like to meet with those folks. What are our opportunities? What are our challenges? How has the performance been in your area? What can we say that tells us that we are responding appropriately? C, and I think it's critical, and I'm not sure I have enough information to say what I'm about ready to say, but I'm not convinced that we have looked and have been aggressive with our colleagues at the secondary level with their career and tech programs that match to our certificate and associate degree programs in the School of Workforce Development. Again, if a high school junior or senior has completed curriculum that is the same curriculum for 3 credits in one of our programs, no reason to do that again. And we understand what learning outcomes are. And this isn't a matter of saying, well, how could a high school course count for or be the same as my college course? That's not the question. The question is, what are the learning outcomes of that course, and how do you measure them in high school, and how do they match to the learning outcomes in my course at the college setting? And if they match, come on, let's not ask people to do the work again. Why take their time or their money? So I would want us to look pretty carefully at this area. We articulate where I am now in the Cisco certification program. You could articulate in 19 credits. Most of our programs articulate in 6 to 9 credits coming from the career tech areas in the high school that we have articulation agreements with. And I will tell you that Mr. Pell, God rest his soul, our Pell dollars that are going to these programs, they're demanding that we do this articulation. So we cannot put a blind eye to this area. We've got to pay attention to it. Internally, how do we articulate from our non-credit to our credit? I understand the state of Pennsylvania pretty well, but I'm new to the state of Michigan. So I need to have a better handle on what are the funding streams, state and federal dollars, that are coming into our college that support our work in this critical area. I just need to have my arms around that. I do not today. If we have a rapid response team, that's wonderful. If we don't, then we need to pay some attention to that. And I'm going to come back to rapid response in just a moment. And then, again, do you talk the talk or walk the walk? If I came in here, someone is going to have to get me out fairly quickly because I want to visit my colleagues that are working this area, at your tech facilities, within your programs on campus. But I think it's important that people know that that is a high value for me. And I will have high expectations of myself, providing leadership at the college in this area, and high expectations of those that are working in the area. Question 3. What would I do, or how would I position our college to respond to regional and state workforce needs? You may be surprised with my first talking point here. If people aren't prepared, I don't care how good our programs are and how well they're aligned. If they have to take a year to get ready intellectually to compete in those programs, we are not responding to the current state of this state and the country. So I have a lot of questions about remedial education at Grand Rapids Community College that I will seek answers to. Extent of the problem, so what % of our students require 1, 2, or 3 developmental courses as they come in and matriculate to the institution? And I know we've got great research here, so I'm sure these answers are out there. Once they take that remedial math course, what's the success rate in the next math course? If they didn't take it and should have, what's the success rate in the math course now? How is the retention of those students semester to semester and fall to fall? And finally, how are we doing with overall success as defined by program completion or graduation? We have to, if we're not satisfied with the answers to the questions I just posed, then we're going to have to get busy and really develop. And I will tell you, this is part of my background. I've never gotten away from developmental education at every institution that I've worked for. And I believe to make this work, you put bodies on bodies, that you're very intrusive, that you are somewhat intensive. Cab driver brought me into town last night. What you doing? Oh, I'm driving the cab. And he said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to look at the college, and they're going to take a hard look at me. And he said, I went to the college. I said, you did? I said, he said, I was there last semester. I said, what did you study? He said, well, I'm working on my English, and some math. He said, I can't go this semester because I took another job driving a truck. And he said, I want to go back. And I thought to myself, does anybody else at the college besides me know that this guy isn't here this semester? We should. And we should know that he's not here because he had to get another job. But what are we doing? He's dropped that second job. He's driving a truck. He's quit that too much, wants to come back here. That's where I talk about bodies on bodies. Resources have got to be allocated in the budget so we can work pretty intensely with these students. And we know what's best for them. Sorry, I know that that may not be popular by some of you here, but we're the educator. That guy was driving a big truck. I'd never go and try to drive his truck. I don't know how to drive a truck. But I know how to help you be successful. So I'm going to develop that curriculum so that you have a good probability of being successful. And we are the educators. We define that curriculum. I could go on there a long time, but we'll move along. Number 3, don't throw stones at our secondary partners about lack of preparation until we know that we have made every attempt to meet with our sending school districts and to meet with their English staff and to meet with their math staff and take a look at how does your finishing courses in these areas align to our expectations when they come to our college. And if they do not, what can we all do to create that alignment? We have to have those conversations. And I find that we're not having them, I don't know what you're doing here, we're not having them to the extent we should in Pennsylvania. And this is really the meat of this whole question of why Johnny can't read, from my perspective. I mean, these systems they have to come together in some way. They just cannot sit out here in their own silos doing their own thing. So as the president, I will tell you if I came, I would want to start this discussion, and not only with our community college, but with the four-year institutions that are also here in our county. We should all be at the table, our English faculty, our math faculty, our expectations for reading and comprehension as we move into social science courses here at the institution or the other institutions. Again, we can't sit in our silos. Again, this goes back to let's see if we're aligned, but if need and costs justify expansion, we need to probably look at are there other curriculums or tracks that we need to develop. Clearly in the area of allied health, I've looked at our offerings. I could think of 2 or 3 more that my question is if we offered those, medical sonography would be one, ultrasound, that field, and then there's a lot of spin-offs to that field. And again, cost. One thing I know our president does a lot is remind boards that they're bleeders and feeders. Community need as a justification to a loss of breaking even. Sometimes you weigh that community need because our good faculty in English, they're really feeding the trough. That's where if you're going to make some money on the bottom line, it's in our social science courses. So we know that there'll be areas that, and you English folks, I also understand that if we're doing so well, are we getting the resources that we need to do our job? I understand that conversation. Finally, and again, no, I want to go back to the other slide just for a minute. It's really 3 more. I'm sorry. This, again, the pathways and the education and marketing we need to do with the general public about how all this works and how it works for many people at a cost point that they can afford. You may want to be a physician or an engineer, but your very best start, if you're a family making $50,000 a year, is to come right here to Grand Rapids Community College. This is your best start. Save your money for those next 2 years and then for the graduate work you're going to have to do. So are we helping them understand that we offer an opportunity to come here and either through our Associate of Arts or through our training programs, and in our training programs, finish a program of study and go to work. And decide, when I've worked for a year, I want more advanced skills and knowledge, so I come back. I work for my associate's degree in that area, articulating these credits that I earned previously in my certificate program. And I go back to work. And I've been trained in machining. And I decide, I want to start my own machining shop. Undergraduate degree in business would really be helpful. So I take what I've earned at Grand Rapids, and I take that associate degree, and I take the Michigan transfer arrangement, and I move on to a 4-year, and I get that baccalaureate degree. And it goes on and on and on. But the point is, you can stop out after finishing a stage of training and go out and earn a living making family-sustaining wages with the option of always coming. This is lifelong learning. This is, when I think about lifelong learning, this is kind of the context that I'm thinking about it. GED program. I have to tell you a little story first. I had a guy call me on the phone. I'd been at the college where I am now about a year. And he was upset. And he said, I have this housekeeper. She's 18 years old. I've been encouraging her forever to get her GED. Finally talked her into doing it. And she came down to your college and found out she had to pay $50 to take the GED, and she doesn't have $50. Now, what's wrong with you guys? Here is someone who wants to better their lot in life. The GED will then allow her to get enrolled in one of your programs. Why are you making her pay? She can't do it. Well, I didn't know anything about GED at that point. I really didn't. So I said, well, okay. What was his name, Karen? What was her name? You remember his name?
It's Bob and Judy.
Yeah, Kowalski.
Yeah.
I said, Bob, let me look into this and I'll get back to you. Well, I'll look into it. We're not even breaking even on the cost of the test. But Bob had a really good point. Here's this gal trying to better herself, and she doesn't have $50. For some of our students, $50 might as well be $5,000. It's not there. And I don't have parents or grandparents, anybody else to give me that $50. So I called one of our donors and I said, look, I want to start a program where anybody who takes the GED at our college and passes it will reimburse their $50. And we need to set up a fund for that. So Jack, Karen and I will put up $1,500. You put up $1,500. Let's seed it and try to get this going. We did that. We moved from, and then of course we built that program. I went to my board with it, and their idea was, well, let's make a little more of an incentive here. How about when they pass it, they take their first college course for free. We'll waive that tuition. Put that online. I called Bob back up and I said, Bob, got all this done? He said, well, what about my housekeeper? You still don't have, she doesn't have the $50. I said, well, Bob, I need one more donor to make all this work. Bob gave us $1,000. His mother-in-law gave us $1,000. And now think about that back to that first slide. All the people 25 to 34 years of age that do not have a GED in this county. What are we doing to reach out to them? And are we doing it aggressively? And this rapid response, I'm very serious about that. We need to be ready to move very quickly when we have problems in this county. The example I'll give you of what we're doing at Westmoreland, we have not faced what you have faced. We are now. Pennsylvania lags the economy a full year. It always does. Knew it was going to happen. So in the fall, we started to see the layoffs starting to occur. We have partnered with our Workforce Investment Board. We will have a press announcement on Monday. Any person who has lost their job since January 1 of 2008 can enter into, starting May the 5th, 7 credit and 3 non-credit programs that are in high priority areas. They will finish by August the 20th, so they're going to do between 16 and 19 credits in 2 phases during the summer, and we are going to see if they're eligible for Pell, and we're not, the WIB's going to underwrite any other costs associated with that bill. So if Pell helped me and I still owe the college $600, the WIB's going to give us that $600. We're picking up indirect costs, he's picking up direct costs. Now, that's what I call rapid response. You know, we want to move you quickly, and we want to move you in areas that we know you can find work, and you'll go out, hopefully, and get that job, and you may decide next year, I want an associate's degree. I don't just want the certificate. And we articulate those credits, so we start someone down that pathway. Well, that's an example of what I would call rapid response, and I would like to think that we would be doing similar work here. That's all I've prepared formally. If someone would please get me a glass of water, I would really be happy. I feel like I got cotton balls in my mouth.
Can we make that happen? I apologize for that. I did not take good care of you, Dr. Ender.
Okay.
So, we'll be sure that it's here. It's outside. We forgot to bring it in. I apologize.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. The questions are now being handed in and handed to our deans who are here on the side, and they will be bringing them down. Let me just, there's a question that was handed to me at the very beginning by someone, and I do think I do need to ask you. The Grand Rapids area is known for its efforts towards sustainability and green building. And do you have a background in this? And how would you promote it at GRCC and the surrounding communities?
You know, when I was putting together my response to the second question, I thought I really should talk about green because I know that sustainability is very important. I'm anxious to walk on that roof.
Not with those crutches.
Yeah. We are, actually what we are doing, energy in western Pennsylvania, quite frankly, is called the Marcellus Shale. The Marcellus Shale runs from New York State down through West Virginia. There's enough gas down there to take care of about 10% of our energy needs for about 10 years. They figured out a way. This is deep drilling, okay? The gas is down in layers, and they actually drill this way, and then they drill this way. Needs a lot of water to get this gas out of the ground. Our college is presently working on curriculums, basically certificates, to train people so that when these companies come in from Texas, and that's where they're primarily coming from, we will be able to produce workers that can work in these new jobs that are being created. So I can only say to your question, I'm certainly sensitive to what our energy needs are in this country. I'm very sensitive to what our new president is saying. And again, this is about alignment. Who's working on this issue at this college? Because some of my readings suggest that energy could be a growth industry for Western Michigan. So where are we in that conversation?
Thank you. How do the liberal arts factor into your view of preparing students for a rapidly changing and challenging world?
That's a great question. I think in many ways the same answer would have been given 100 years ago. We want people to be able to write, We want them to be able to communicate orally. We want folks to be able to analyze data. We want folks to understand how to research information. We want folks to understand their civic responsibilities as a citizen of this county or this state or this country. Liberal arts education as a cornerstone to our work is kind of the fundamental of American democracy. So I have always, even though it took me, like most undergraduates, a long time to figure out why the heck did I have to take history. It just was a hard sell. And we need to do a better job in our classrooms answering that question before it's asked, quite frankly. And if we can't answer that question, then that student has a real legitimate concern. I think we can answer it, but we all need to think, are we answering that question as we go about our work in our liberal arts area?
Thank you. Now, we have several questions here that deal with your relationship with students. What do you know about our GRCC students, and how do you form relations with and advocate for students?
I spent, when I came in for my interview, we have a friend who's here with us today. We just kind of snuck around and thought that we'd take a look at just the college. And my sense of your students, quite frankly, they seemed actually, and my average age student is 29, but that's really coming down as our fastest growing cohort is traditional 18, 19-year-olds, and that's driven by cost in our articulation agreements. Your students seem to be more mature to me. I don't have a better word for it than that. I was very impressed with the students that I ran into that day. My idea of engaging with students is that, first, access. I mean, if I come here, you'll find that I don't think the president's office should be scary to anybody, quite frankly. Sometimes it's scary to the president, but
yes.
But really, I mean, students should, and when you say this, you just better watch out what you're asking for. But at the same time, I am the president, or someone is the president. I do represent the institution. You should have relationships with me. I taught a course last semester, Strategies for Academic Success. I hadn't taught in 10 years. I started out with 5 women and 7 guys. All the women deserted me the first day. They found out they didn't have to take the course. But my 7 guys, and they were young, and they really were not very worldly, and they really didn't have any sense of why they were there. It's very interesting. Same thing I saw at those 7, I saw at the university. Mom and Dad wants me here, was for 2 or 3 of them. One guy thought that he wanted to be a physician's assistant. I know your question, and I'm going to get back around to it. Physician's assistant, and it just, wasn't computing very well for me. And I started talking about these 7. Do you understand the manufacturing jobs that are available in this county? I mean, sure, manufacturing, here also. We're losing jobs. But the other side of that equation is there are jobs. In that field in particular, the retirements that are going on are pretty scary for the guys out there or the women running those businesses. So there are very good jobs out there. And they didn't know anything about manufacturing. I said, well, there's a group we're working with, Elliott Corporation, that if you're interested in going to work for them, they'll bring you in, and for 7 weeks, we do the training for them. We'll put you through 4 modules of training, and you can go to work making $20 an hour. Everybody got interested in manufacturing then. So we took a field trip. President loaded them up in the SUV and off to Elliott, and we toured the plant, and HR gave them. It was very, very nice. But what I learned more about students, those 7, and I think they represent some portion of my student body in that 14-week, 1 time a week experience than I had learned in 3 or 4 years. So if you're going to know your students, you got to go out there and get in their world a little bit. And I'm not uncomfortable in that world at all. Actually, that's why we're in this business, quite frankly. The problem that we have in leadership is that it's so easy to get torn away from what's fundamentally the most important thing that we do because of our responsibilities. And I have to 10 years, and I hadn't taught a course. Now, I will tell you, faculty, the tapes come back. It's really interesting to me. But you have all these tools I never knew about. I'm on the computer with my grade book, and we're doing little chats, and posted all my assignments through the Blackboard. Boy, you got a lot of things out there that are pretty clever. I always worried I'd still had my own grading book because I just knew at the end of the day something's going to go wrong and I really won't have my grades. But trust.
Well, I'm going to take the chair's prerogative here, and I'm going to ask you. You said you were sneaking around. Is there anything else you discovered about us that we need to know?
I discovered, and this was really great, and it's a tribute to you because folks had no idea who I was. Your staff is friendly. They go out of their way to help. I mean, this is true from a gentleman who works in the facilities group, custodian in your main administration building. He's deaf. This guy, I was trying to get to the president's office. He got me there. We figured out how
That's
to do
a miracle in its own right.
Well, when I was finally weaving my way there, I thought if I come to work here, I'm going to have to drop, like the breadcrumbs to get myself back out. Bookstore, the learning center, the library. Of course, we parked where we weren't supposed to, so someone helped us get out of the garage without turning us in. People were very, very friendly, and I thought that was a real tribute, and I liked that quite a bit, quite frankly.
We are running a little bit late. There were many questions that were not asked. We will take one more, and I apologize. We'll get these questions to the board, and they can make determination. I should tell you that some of the questions that you have turned in will be asked by the board at the next session, and they are part of that larger question as well. One question here that I think if you had a time machine in the past year, is there a decision that you'd like to change, business decision or educational decision that you'd like to change?
That is a really great question. I do not want to come off as George Bush here. When it comes to a business decision, something that impacts my college, I truly cannot think of anything. If you ask me that question since I've been at the college, clearly we jumped into one of our programs that, in retrospect, we probably should have vetted a little bit better before we did it. We've done a very good job really trying to understand the college from a business perspective and really determining when we have bleeders, how does that program contribute to the welfare of our students and to our community. I could have, through that analysis, dropped a horticulture program. I just couldn't do it. I mean, I will tell you, a lot of women are in that program. They've got a club. I know Yuri only has 7 or 8 people in his classes, but for those 40 or 50 people, it is their world, and I couldn't get myself to go to the board and pull the trigger on that program. And Yuri understood that, so he spent the last year really trying to redevelop his program. So our quid pro quo was, Yuri, I'm not going to recommend we drop it, but hey, we've got to get some work done here. This is a program because we have the greenhouse, there are expenses here. So do I think I should have dropped it initially? Probably. Am I glad that I didn't? Yes.
Those are those kinds of decisions that make it scary sometimes in the office. Dr. Inder, thank you very much for your time with this college. This is a wonderful institution, and we are so pleased that you could be with us today. Thank you.